Good evening and welcome back to the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show. Tonight I have a very special guest. I have been dying to get her on the show, and she has taken time out of her busy schedule to be here. It is Kristen Payton from Georgia. Kristen has been in the Bigfoot research community for over 10 years. Folks, she is not only beautiful, but she is as smart as they come. Kristen, I'm going to let you tell the audience, the world, the Bigfoot community, a little bit about you.
Alrighty. So I am from a little town in Northeast Georgia, from Elberton. You guys may recognize the Guidestones, or what used to be the Guidestones. That's my home.
Wow.
So I grew up. I've left. I've come back. I've left. I've come back. So I'm back in Elberton right now, where I had my first Bigfoot sighting at the age of 16.
Wow. So let's start from there. That's what got you into it, right? Because I heard you're a pretty hard hitter in the field, and you hold your own with the best of them. Oh, they're trying to bout it. I've heard some really good stuff about you. You can go out with me anyway, any day. I might learn something from you. So you had your first sighting at 16.
I did. I sure did. Sure did. Changed my life. I mean, of course, I went on with my career, and I'm now a nurse, an ER nurse, and in the medical field. So that's my job. But my hobby is looking for Bigfoot.
Yeah. You've been to some pretty serious places.
Yes.
Can we go back and talk about your first encounter?
Sure. My parents owned 30 acres close to Broad River. And it's nothing but woods, especially then. Like I said, I'm 37 now, so I was 16 years old, so it's been a little while. More people have moved into the area. But 30 acres of nothing but woods, a creek, a beaver pond, and I went to go look at eagle nests on the back end of the property. There were some eagle nests, and you could see the eagles flying around, which was really cool. And I was on, yes. I play music, and I used to be in a country band, and it's really weird because we were on break from kicking and grinning, as we called it. Took the band leader, his wife, down on the ATV, and was like, we'll go check out the eagle nest. That's all I had in mind. It was a summer day, really pretty. We hop on the four-wheeler. Here we go. And 30 acres, when I say straight back, it was a skinny little tract of land. So we were a good ways back in there. Didn't have phones, cell phones. We had nothing with us. We were planning on heading right back. And so we get down as far as we can go on the end of the little, I call it a road. It was, scraped dirt, basically, where a dozer had come through. And we were on top of a ridgeline. There was a little pig path you would take to get down to where it flattened out, and to the corner of the creek was here, the beaver pond was here. So we were at the little corner, and it was a pretty day, and we were like, oh, look, you could see them way off in the distance, and everything got quiet, and things changed. We heard leaves, we heard trees, something coming through the bushes. The woods went dead silent. And I don't even know how to describe it, but you could almost see the trees swaying as something's coming towards you. And it was moving pretty fast towards us. So we just stood there. I mean, we had nowhere to go. This thing, I mean, I want to say it's a Bigfoot, but because I didn't see, I'm looking at you now, I can't say 100% it's a Bigfoot, but I don't know what else it could have been. So this thing come towards us like it was going to kill us. And it stopped in between us and the ATV on the side of the hill, close to right where the little pig path is. Like I said, woods, dead silent. You could hear a twig break. You could hear an acorn fall. So we stood there. We watched it. It was what you could see through the leaves in the trees. Like I said, it's summertime. So if you've ever been deep in the woods, you can't see well through trees and brushes. But you could see the outline of this massive creature.
Wow.
It was blocking the sunlight, but you could definitely tell the dark mass through the sunlight in the trees. And it stood there. It just stared at us. Well, what seemed like an hour was probably more like 30 seconds. So it's hard to estimate the time. But the lady I was with, now I was, like I said, I was 16 at the time, and she, I'm guessing, was right at the age of 50. So she grabs me and throws me out in front of her and starts screaming, "We're gonna die, we're gonna die, we're gonna die."
Oh my goodness. No, she did not.
She did. She offered me up for sacrifice.
Typical lady rivalry.
So, and I'm just standing there frozen because what else do you do?
They still run.
Yeah, but I was thinking I may die because I don't know what this is. You know, I've been around bear. We've had bear on the property, bobcat, mountain, everything, coyotes. This wasn't anything. This was not a bear on two legs. It stood there. So, like I said, what seemed like an eternity was probably only seconds. This thing, I call it Bigfoot, turned and walked away on 2 feet. Not, you know, it wasn't coming fast. It wasn't going fast, but it come at us like it was charging us or like it was going to do us harm. But it just like turned and walked away. But the reason I say I know for sure it wasn't something else or I wasn't mistaken is when it come through that pig path area where it was a little bit more cleared out, there was you could clearly see the arm. Of course it moved, but as the arm swung out, you could see the forearm. But the hands is what I remember the most. They were massive. And it was not a human hand, but it was fingers. I mean, it was a hand. It wasn't a paw. But it walked off pretty as it pleased, just like we were never there.
So it was a bluff charge, what we would say a bluff charge. Do you think it was protecting the area? It just didn't want you there? Or do you think looking back, do you think you were actually in danger? Because you've got a lot of experiences with charges, woods. You've had many, many very interesting experiences.
Yes.
Looking back now, do you think it was just get out of my territory? Do you think it was just playing around with you, or you wanted you out of the area, or what conclusion have you come to all those years?
I think we were on its territory, but I felt like it was as if you see how a mother dog will protect its young, or something will protect its young. That's my gut feeling, was maybe it had stashed its kid, or there was a youngster in the area, but it was coming like, you better leave and you better leave now. You're not welcome. But I think when he saw or she saw how scared we were, it was like,
I was gonna say that when sat there and it was able to size you up, you're like, okay, not a threat. Right. Whatever, I'm out of here. And that's what I mean. You got a good look at it then. I mean, to be able to tell those kind of features and, you know, the arm and the hands, and it just stays with you. So my biggest question about this: did you ever confront your friend for using you as bait?
I was like, oh my gosh. She said, well, I thought I was going to die. I was like, well, I did too after you put me out in front. We were both terrified. I mean, scared. And to this day, she still talks about, matter of fact, I saw her earlier. It was this year. The year's flying by. So it was earlier this year I saw her and she's like, have you seen Bigfoot down there again? You know, she's still talking. Yeah. So, I mean, she saw something.
Yeah. So
She
you're
saw
seeing
it.
it and your mind's registering. I mean, it's going, your mind goes through like these file folders and it tries to place it where it belongs. How long did it take the reality to sit in that you just had an experience?
A few days or more because it did not make sense. What I saw didn't make sense. I've been up against, football players that have their gear on, and have their helmets. I mean, they're some big guys. I'm 5'5", but now they're over 6 foot tall and big. They're big. And I would compare it to being that wide, the width, if not bigger. So as the days went on, I'm like, Bigfoot, yeah, I've seen it on TV, but it's not in Georgia. But then I'm sitting there going, what else could it be? Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It wasn't a man in a ghillie suit. A lot of people said it's a man in a ghillie suit, because it will make you look bigger. No. I saw the hand. I saw the arm. I saw hair. It was, I don't know what else it could have been. So the neighbors in the area have also seen it. And I mean, my mom, back when we moved there, I don't know if I was even 10 years, I was probably 8 or 9 when we moved there. She had an experience, and we've had things happen that now we're like, oh, what had to be Bigfoot? But until I saw it, it was like, that's weird. But then when I saw it, and then the neighbors actually started talking about it, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to know more.
Yeah, didn't it really make you feel good to kind of be validated when your neighbors started? But what were some of the circumstances that happened that now looking back makes sense?
Well, right when we moved down there, my mom went out on the back porch. It was even unfinished at that point. And we come from the city, well, city, it's a little city, and moved down in the country. And she was actually standing out on the back porch, and she said she was thinking to herself, oh, how nice, I can stand outside in my pajamas and there's not neighbors right around. And a lot of land had been cleared out just recently. It was just thick woods. And she said all of a sudden this thing let out the most powerful roar and yell. It terrified her, and she doesn't get scared often. She doesn't. So comparing the sounds, of course, we started looking up, oh, what did you hear? She found a silverback gorilla and the roar of a lion. She said if you put those together and amplified the sound, you would have close to what she heard.
So your mom, you'd say she was pretty level-headed to, to put that together.
Yeah, and we found footprints in the snow. It doesn't snow much around here, but my mom, like I said, she had another experience where she was checking the property line, and at that time we'd gotten, I think it was 3 goats and a horse. So she was checking property lines and making sure, fences were up. And she said she noticed like these, like a little footprint in the snow, like a human footprint. And she's like, there's nobody down here. We're way back in the woods. And a little bit more, so they'd find some more footprints. And she got to feeling odd. And then she was like, if this is a Bigfoot, she said, this is a little one. And where there's a little one, there's a mama.
There's a mama.
Out of there. But could we say that was Bigfoot? Again, no. But that's when little things started adding up. And then I saw it. It made sense.
How long did you stay on the property after you had the sighting?
They still own part of it. So they still have a camper now back where the sighting was. So they still have half of the property, actually 20 acres.
So do you still have activity back there? Or do you think it's moved on? You think popular? Really?
Yeah. Matter of fact, it was January. Like I said, these years are flying by. It's 2 years ago in January. I casted I think it was 18-inch track. I mean, you could see toes, you could see heel, you could see the brake, and I could follow a track line. So it wasn't an isolated footprint that may have been something. I followed a track line, and it was so weird. It went from the creek area, it went up, and then it would zigzag, and then it'd go back up, and it'd zigzag down. It was like going up in a zigzag along the side of the ridge. And I casted that track. Well, I was like, well, if there's more here, let me check the creek banks. There's sandy areas. See if there's a more like a clearer footprint. And sure enough, I get the next ridge over, and I find a little footprint.
Oh, not a little one.
A little one. And so I casted it as well, but it was just that one footprint. It looked like where maybe it jumped the creek and its foot hit pretty good. So I got really amazing toe impressions. And you could kind of track it, but not that great. But the big footprint, oh yeah.
Yeah, so good. I can pick your brain. Do you think, since you've been there for so long on the property with them, your parents have been there, it's been your home, do you think they adapt to you and that they're comfortable with you there or your family there? Are you like live TV for them, or are they hosters, or do they have a sense of humor, or they just kind of live and let live?
I think they just try to avoid us. Because it's little things. That my mom was cutting some grass on the road that I was telling you about, just trying to keep it clean. And she had got down actually in the gully, it's a good 15, 20 foot almost drop off. And she had gotten down there because she loves the woods. And she had like little, I can't remember if it was acorns or pebbles, like being tossed at her from the top. And she said she would start, digging around the creek and, seeing what's up. And she said there and come like I said, I can't remember, rock. It'd go, whoom. And then something went, whoom. And she'd look, and she said, I wouldn't see anything. Then she got to feeling like she was being watched. We've had that feeling a lot. I call it almost like the heebie-jeebies. Something's not right.
Yeah, so, I would say so. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're fine. I think we're maybe like a little bit of entertainment, but at the same time, it's like, all right, this is our land, so you need to go back home.
So literally, it was there when you guys bought the land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Yep. And I think us clearing out, and neighbors now, as they have moved in and more homes are being built, it's pushed them further back. But I do believe they still come through there.
Have you ever gifted or had your chickens missing or something, anything like that?
Cats, but
no, not a cat.
Yes, kitty cats. But then again, we have coyotes. There are hawks. It's other animals. It's not. We can't say, oh, Bigfoot got them.
No, Bigfoot loves cats. That's just
okay.
I'm a cat woman. I'm sorry, my husband kills me all the time. So you took that experience and you really have became a wonderful, just a very professional, very, you hold your ground. How did that come about? When did you go out, like on your first expedition or your first out in the field? When did you decide I want to know more about this? If you say when you were 16, I'm going to choke you.
No, it was not.
I'm joking.
No, I was about 24, 25. I contacted the BFRO, and just because it was out there, I wanted these creatures to be, I was trying to push for maybe protection for them or just, hey, knowledge of they're here. But if they could have killed us, they've had plenty of opportunity to do it. So I'm not saying they're not dangerous. They are. But if it was automatically out to kill you or hurt you, I should have been gone a long time ago.
Yeah, I think that's what I find, really amazing when you put the fear in the actual experience to decide and you live to tell about it and you look back and you realize what kind of damage it could have been a she,
Yeah.
having what kind of damage she or he could have done to you and did not. I
Hmm.
think that is something that we forget to stop and think about.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. So
So you
BFRO,
went, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, BFRO, a team member from there come out and investigated and actually found some tracks, and the dog at the time was terrified. They made like a Bigfoot call, like the scream and yell. They imitated it, terrified the dog. And from there, I met another guy. His name's Dave Moser and Rick Corliss. And he's like, "You all come out with this sometime." And I was like, I've never been camping, but I want to know more. Like, I've got to know more. So I decided I'll make a trip up to North Carolina as my first outing and get broken in really well.
Was that in Uwharrie?
It is. Yes, it's Uwharrie. Mm-hmm.
Uwharrie is a hot spot. What kind of activity did you have when you went out? Because I know, like David and Don, and my husband, and that's their favorite spot ever, ever, ever. I'm like, I want to go to Swamp. And they're like, no, we're going to Uwharrie. I'm like, okay, but I think they just got screamed out of the. Him and Lynn got screamed at. I mean, it was like almost in their face, and they. I probably shouldn't say it, but he almost ran Lynn over. Not to hear them tell about it, so sorry. But so you went to Uwharrie. You went to one of the best spots there is in North Carolina, other than South Mountain. How did that go?
It went well. I learned a lot that trip, and not only about Bigfoots and other weird stuff like orbs and ghosts, but I also just learned kind of how to camp because I'd never done that before. I learned not to buy a pump tent for $20 off of Amazon. Um, I learned the basics, but we also had some activity. We had some odd things show up on thermal. One when I was trying to sleep and I was scared to death because I've never been out there. And when someone radios and says something's outside your tent, you're like, uh-oh. But we found a smaller footprint. I think it was that same weekend. Now, since then, of course, I've been back to Uwharrie. We've had some more crazy, absolutely insane encounters in that area. I'm not just saying Uwharrie, but the whole area.
Oldest mountains in the world.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So tell us about some of your Uwharrie experiences.
Oh boy. One of the most amazing things, getting a little bit off of the Bigfoot topic, is well, folks probably already think I'm crazy, so it's okay. I had my first major experience with orbs. I don't even know how to describe it.
Uwharrie has orbs. You can say it. I'll be crazy with you. Uwharrie has orbs.
Yeah. And it wasn't just like a little fleeting orb, which is usually what we see and encounter out in the woods. This was huge balls of light with no source. Did not show up on thermal. I pulled out because I was like, I've got to record this. This is amazing. Of course, I pulled my thermal. It didn't show up. Night vision not showing up. My camera, like an old, actual camera, died. My cell phone, I can't remember if it died or if it just didn't show up. So I had no way to record this, but it's forever etched in my mind. It's amber light. It was like an amber brightish light, and it was one big ball, huge ball, that morphed into like four, and they started orbiting around each other. We were all sitting there watching it. None of us in the group could believe it. We were all like, this what? Because you could see through the light. So it wasn't like somebody had a headlamp. And we're all trying to debunk it in our minds. Like, what is this? This is too amazing. All of our K2 meters were going nuts. At that time, I didn't carry like any type of EMF or any type of Geiger counter. I didn't then. But these things, it was just moving, and you could tell it was intelligent. It was almost like it was watching us. And then they started coming towards us. And about that time, Bob Wilson, Grumpy, he just passed away. But I know. So he had one of his, he had one of his high-tech gadgets of flashlights, and was like, all right, I'm going to light it up. I'm out here looking for monsters. And he turned it on, and they were gone, like, just gone. No, nothing. There was no source with the high beam flashlight.
How far away were they?
It's hard to say. I am the worst when it comes to estimating distance, and especially with it being nighttime. But 100 feet maybe. I don't know. Some of the guys would be better off to tell you the distance. I'll be like, from here to the stop sign or here to the corner.
That's a mile that way. I get it. Now, let me ask you this. Was there any forest sounds?
Not that I can remember.
See, that's strange.
Yeah. That's strange. Yeah. No, it was nighttime, and I don't actually recall that night having a lot of sounds. It seems like in areas, thick woods, especially sometimes where we go, there's not a lot of animal noises, day or night, I've seen. So it was a quiet night anyway, from what I can remember. But I remember nothing making a sound other than us going, "Are y'all seeing that? What is that?" And it was funny.
Did you have any more orb experiences out there?
I know I've seen like the smaller ones, but nothing like that. I've had in other areas we investigate bigger flashes of light, but not really orbs that kind of hang around and navigate around you. It's more light.
I know when we were out near Reservation Road, I think it was, and it was like 2:00 in the morning, and I'm looking from the ridge we're on to the next ridge over, and I keep seeing this white light, and you'd see it, it was, the wind was blowing that night, you could, and the limbs were blowing in front of, and I'm thinking there's no street lamp anywhere near here. And if it was a street lamp, it would have to be 100 foot up in the air, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, because like I said, your mind is trying to make sense of it. And I said, there's no street lamp here. There's literally nothing between this ridge and this ridge. And I was like, I got a light in the wood. And of course, Lynn and my husband was over there I'm like, there's a light right there. Do you got? And by the time they turned around, it was gone. But fast forward 2 weeks past that, Johnny'd seen the same light, and he was like, "There's no street lamps out." Yeah, but it was like there for a few minutes and gone. And recently, I spoke with one of my friends in Florida. I had the same incident in the Everglades. So there's some strange things. So other than the orbs, what has got to be the one thing you could say no one would believe? And it's okay if you look crazy, because we all crazy in this world.
Oh my goodness. Here we go. I watched a couple of my teammates disappear into, we're calling it a portal. We don't know. It was something. I watched them disappear right in front of my face on thermal. I don't know what it is. No one knows. We can't say, oh, this is what it is. But there was a heat signature of a square outline of a square box, a very large box too. And we had team members that we were going to try to guide into this. And we really didn't even know ourselves what we were getting into at that time. But there's an odd heat signature on more than one thermal. So something's there. So, we're like, oh, this is odd. Let's go check it out.
Of
And
course you did.
and so, I mean, we watch them, and it's David Pardue was the one.
David.
You can actually hear him on my thermal because I'm recording this thing, and I'm watching them. We're guiding them in, and they're walking, and they're getting to where this box is that's fading. Now you can't see it that well, and they're walking, and where they go. And I was like, again, I'm trying to make sense of everything. And I said, they must have just walked into the wood line because I lost them. I said something like that. You can hear me say, oh, they must have walked into the wood line or something. And then Pardue goes, did they just disappear? I'm like, they didn't disappear. People don't disappear. And
They do.
yeah, but that time I'm like, what are you talking about? They're in the woods. Yeah. And so the team members, Tim, he's passed. Bob has passed. They realized something wasn't right. Said that it was like a black curtain was pulled down in front of their face. I don't think they could really see the sky anymore. The atmosphere changed, and they realized something's not right. Like they just walked into something. So they did an about face and immediately started coming right back out the same way they come. And as they're coming out, they said that they were tripping over like briars and like little brush. And when they walked in, it was just a clear walk through a pasture. Walking out, and that area is, I mean, it's got a lot of brush. You're going to be tripping and, getting hung up on briars. That's just the area we go in. So as they're walking out, you can see them reappear on FLIR. Like, here they go. Their heat signature is not there. And then you see them a little bit, no, and then a solid form again. So I was like, oh, they're back out of the woods.
Mm-hmm. So was there any type of like after effect that the people that disappeared? I mean, did they have headaches? Did they have a sensation? Did they feel any type of energy? I try to be scientific with my questions, but I'm kind of a country girl, so I just put it out there to another country girl. Was there anything strange about it when they came?
No, they just realized something was wrong and something didn't feel right. As far as any signs or symptoms, I wouldn't say they had any oddities going on that night, but it wasn't soon after that. Tim started developing lung issues that the doctors really couldn't figure out what was going on. Bob developed cancer. So is that due to entering into this area? You can't say for sure, but I find it very strange. Both of them are now gone.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about that. But you guys are really diligent to take care of each other in the field because, I've been out with David. I was able to meet Grumpy at UWAR. Just wonderful, wonderful guy. I mean, he's just he entertains himself. He's just a great guy. I can't say I knew a lot about him. I know he was kind to me out there, and and that's where I met Matt. And the one thing I can say about them is they're really diligent when taking care of each other.
Yes.
They always know where the other person's at, and you with your background, I imagine that is very useful in the field. Because
I try, but I mean, in those cases, I have no equipment to really do anything. I mean, I'm out there. Of course, I can probably help kind of diagnose in a nursing aspect of what's going on, but I have no drugs with me. I have no defibrillator with me, but I sure know how to call 911.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So you go from Uwharrie to Georgia. Is there a difference between the activity and what you might have in North Carolina and what you might have in Georgia or South Carolina or Alabama? It's about the same.
It's about the same. I mean, a lot of times I actually have to sit and think, okay, I know this happened, but what state was I in? Because they're all very similar. They have their differences, but they're all just similar, whether it be Sasquatch, orbs, ghost activity,
We haven't
strangeness,
hit
just
on that
strange.
yet. We haven't hit on the ghost activity, so let's roll with that.
Alrighty.
All right.
Well, the night actually of the portal, we heard voices. Now, this could have been like samurai chatter of a Sasquatch, but you could clearly hear voices. It was not picked up on a recorder. I don't even think we had the recorder. This was after all the excitement and trying to get back to the meadow, or get out of the meadow, actually, as we call it. So I don't even think we had recorders. We were just like, oh my gosh, you believe that? But we definitely heard voices then. I've been investigating over in South Carolina when I've gotten an EVP on the recorder. I didn't hear it at the time, but it was with David Pardue and Don Tart, who had just had knee surgery. He was on a walker out there. We're way back in the woods. And yeah, and he saw shadows, and he was like, me and David Pardue, we actually made it a little deeper in the woods. But poor Don was left at the car, and he started seeing shadows, and you can hear him say on the recorder, "They're here." And then about that time on my recorder, and I'm across the creek, you hear a whistling, plain as day.
Do tell.
Yeah.
So now I'm still stuck on Don out there with his walker. He's a nuclear engineer.
Yes.
So I mean, he's not like somebody that fell off the Apple truck and hit his head. I mean, it's some really rock solid people. I mean, you can work at Piggly Wiggly and still be intelligent. So I'm not knocking, but you have people that, when you look at his job and your job, people depend on what your accountability and your discretion. So it's not like you're just out there seeing things, and you guys talk it out and everything else. What's your favorite place?
One, I have to choose one. So the meadow area, of course, the meadow and North Carolina. I mean, it's like every time I go there up in the Uwharrie area, like I said, not just necessarily Uwharrie, but all around, you're going to have activity. Now in Georgia, there's a ton of activity too, and I don't know why I don't investigate on our own property more, but I think it's like a hit or miss. But it's not as concentrated in one area. Where there, it seems to be, you're probably going to have something happen. Where Georgia, you might here, you might there. You just never know.
So when you going back to the meadow, there was actually a book written on that, and they just don't let anyone in that area. You have to be someone pretty solid, and you guys are tactical going in, and you're tactical coming out.
Yeah. We all sign non-disclosure agreements just because we don't want that area contaminated.
And I agree 100%. And the one thing I do not like to see is when an area, especially Uwharrie, you seen what happened to Uwharrie when the show was there, and people just destroyed a good research area. And I know David was pretty upset about that because it took him a long time to have another experience out there.
Yeah.
And so I completely understand that, because you don't have people that take care of the land, and you do have people that just want to hunt things down and are not very respectful at all. So I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was very it just showed your dedication to finding answers in the area.
Yeah. Because like I said, anything that happens, we will try and debunk it. Like the incident with the, like I said, possible portal with people walking in and disappearing. We recreated that to see if, hey, maybe they did step off, but we could not debunk it. Same time of year, same equipment, same everything, and you do not disappear in that area because it's not that thick. It's not thick enough to disappear. Like where the woods where I was at, where I had my first sighting, it's thick woods. But we tried to bunk it, and sadly, I see so many people, if they see a pine cone fall out of a tree, they're like, "Oh my God, Bigfoot there." But we're like, "All right, let's go hunt this down. Oh, well, look, there's a pine tree. Oh, the wind just blew. No one, it's out in the open." So we try to find answers before we go saying Bigfoot did it, or Dog Man, or a ghost, or something.
Now, you've had experiences with Dogman.
I have not. No. The other parts of the group, yeah, they've had some experiences and they've collected some cases, but I have not personally, that I know of, have had any Dogman experience yet.
That's where my first encounter come from, witnessing one. Do you think there's more patty type, or do you think there's more slender, kind of human athletic type that you're encountering out there?
I think there's more slender, human sized.
Useful muscle.
Yeah. Now, the first one I saw, that was not a slender one. That was not a one that could easily be mistaken for a human. I have come across others that are, their footprint. I can't really distinguish. I say, okay, I think that's a Squatch, but I can't rule out human because it's within our size. And actually, back in November of last year, we were on a research outing, and I got what I believe is a Bigfoot on thermal, and it was not a 10-foot tall giant. It was probably max of 6 foot. It wasn't this massive creature, but it was abnormal to the effect on thermal that it was uniform in color, which would be uniform in heat, and the way it moved and the way it behaved.
You know.
I know.
No. What's your favorite piece of gear to take with you?
Thermal.
Thermal.
Gun.
Do you find? Yeah, I'm big on that, and it's for the people.
Exactly. I'm not out to hurt it, because what I saw, if I were to shoot this thing, it would be like, okay, now I'm after to kill you. I feel like it would be in self-defense mode. I'm out there with a gun because I have run up on crazy people in the woods. And also, you never know, you're going to encounter a rabid animal, a pack of wild dogs. They say like these huge black panthers and stuff don't exist, especially in Georgia, but
they do.
Yeah, they do. So it's just a protection for me against, in case I need it, not because I want to go kill something. I love animals.
Yeah. It's called being a responsible gun owner.
Right. So other than my gun, a thermal, because a lot of stuff can't hide on thermal.
Yeah, you get a good signature on it too.
Right now,
I think the last time, and you want to talk about screwing up in the field? Let me tell you about screwing up in the field. I got a very large thing. I got the shoulder and the head like this at the bottom of a tree, but it was huge. So, I've got the flare on, and I'm trying to take pictures, but I'm hitting the zoom button and not the picture button. And it seems like that happens every time we get just a classic, perfect scenario to get a picture. And right after that, actually it was the same night. Johnny and Lynn were talking, and I saw something, but this was on all fours, but the back was just huge, and you could just see the shoulder blades. I said, "What? It might be a bear," because I only caught like the top part. I just knew it was sending off a strong heat signature on it, and I was like, once again, I was hitting the zoom button, not the picture button. So it didn't exist. I'm sorry, but that was a very strange night, and I think Terry Wendell was with us that night.
Oh, Terry, yes. Yes, he
we
was there. Yeah, old
and
Terry was there the night of the portal with us and several other occasions.
Terry's a good guy. I really like Terry.
Yes.
But I'm gonna ask you what I asked Terry. I said, Terry, when you first met your wife, how did you break it to her? And he told me. So I'm gonna ask you, when you first met your sweetheart, how did you break it to her?
Oh
Just,
dear.
yeah, I'm
Well,
waiting.
we at that time I lived in an apartment and he lived in an apartment. We were almost like there was one person separating us. And he would see me loading up my tent and camping equipment on weekends. And
Yeah.
yes, and we finally started talking and he said, so I see you love to camp a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I sure do. And of course, the more we got to speaking, he's like, so where do you camp at? And I'm like, well, let me go ahead and tell you this. I don't camp because I love to camp. I'm camping because I'm hunting Bigfoot. And he said, oh. But he was very open to it.
That was
And
awesome.
yeah, so I've showed him what I've caught on film and pictures. And, yeah, of course, he's met a lot of the group. And I think he sees that they're pretty level headed. And most of them have pretty good degrees and work in law enforcement, medicine, military. So he's like, okay, maybe this chick isn't so crazy after all. And now he's cool with it. He's not a fan of camping with me because we rough it. I mean, it's not pretty, but he's accepted it.
Well, I think that's good because it's either a deal breaker or they're with you all the way on it. So that's awesome. But I asked Terry that, and he said his wife was like, "Well, you're not a serial killer, so it'll be okay, you know." But I mean, his wife is. If you believe, that's enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
But you've gotten some pretty compelling evidence, and you you have a lot of respect in the field with the people you go out with. And I've heard some really wonderful things, and respect is something that's earned out there. I mean, I don't care if you're in the medical field, law enforcement, or the Bigfoot field, or in the meadow.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to get invited if they don't know you have your back, and it's when you're having something charge you through the woods, it takes a lot to keep your composure sometime.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, you have definitely held your ground and you have earned your place and the respect among your peers.
Well, thank you, thank you. It gets a little hairy in those situations, and when you've got your team out there they've got your back. And if something goes down, you've got to trust them to be able to help get you out of that situation because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what we're going to run into. And like your husband, I know if something were to happen to me, he would be right there. And you too. I've never got to go out with you, but I know you would too.
Yes,
And just
ma'am.
like if something happened to you, I'm going to act. I'm not going to run away. That's something we can't do out there. So we've got to trust each other. And we're not just friends. We are like a big family now. They are my family.
And
It's wonderful.
you just lost a part of that family, and we'll get to that in a minute. And I just when you agreed to come on the show, I told my husband, I said I said she is a wealth of information. He was like, "Oh, you just don't know." I know when I get off tonight, there's probably going to be a dozen questions I had wished I had asked. So I might ask you back. Um, but I think the part I really want to go back to is your homeland, because that is where it started at. Do you feel like almost a, I know you have a bond with the land, but do you feel like you have boundaries that they don't cross and you don't cross? Do you think over the years you've set the boundaries and the respect, and is there like something we need to know when you live amongst them, or
I don't, I know I've probably crossed way too many boundaries with them, But now they stay what I would feel is in their boundary. They stay in the woods. They're not running up to the house, smashing windows. And I don't think they were the ones snatching the cats, but they're not damaging or hurting us. But I think we've damaged their property. We've overstepped the bounds by putting up fencing, by clearing off some in the creek, by putting up a camper at the very back. We've damaged their land. We've overstepped theirs. I've been chased out of the woods by what I think was a Bigfoot. Was that because I got too close, or did I just make them mad, or was it just saying, look, you need to back up? But I got chased out once. I can tell you a little bit about that if you want me to.
Yeah, let's say, wait a minute now, let's back up. Was this when you were 16 or was this a different event?
No, this was not too long. I say I was probably 12. 12, maybe 13. My parents were putting up some, I can't remember if it was fence posts or like no trespassing signs, like on the property line, because it's in the woods. You're going to have random hunters, all around. So we don't want any trespassers. We're not hunters, so we try to keep them off the land. We like animals. But I was back there with the dog, my parents. My parents had moved way on down the creek. And of course, I was 12-ish, somewhere in there. I had my dog with me. His name was Buddy. He's a pit bull shepherd lab mix. He's a big dog. And he was not a nice dog either. I mean, he come after me sometimes. Yeah. But if someone come up, he would go after them. If anyone got around me, I mean, he didn't mind biting them. So I was playing at the creek, and I had to pee. So I was in the woods. So I squatted down, and of course the dog was around me, but I heard footsteps coming up to me. Well, I thought it was my dad. My dad was a bigger guy. I mean, you could hear the thump, thump. It was loud. And now looking back, it was a little too loud. But it made itself known, and it got closer. And so I was like, Daddy, because I didn't want him walking up on me. And I was like, Daddy. I didn't hear anything. And the footsteps kept coming. So I stood up. About that time, the dog, his name was Buddy. He started growling and, looking at something I couldn't see, or sensing something that I couldn't see. And he kind of took off. Well, I'm just standing there I should have seen Daddy by now. And next thing I know, that dog passes me, flying by me with his tail tucked between his legs, whining and whimpering I got to get out of there. Well, if that dog left me, I was like, uh-oh. So I take off running. About the time I take off running, you can hear something behind me, chasing me out of the woods.
Oh, my goodness.
I jump the creek to where it's more clear. And the dog's turn around looking, he's scared to death and still shaking. Well, I hit the other side of the creek, and I'm looking, and dead silence.
Wow.
Yeah, something got after me.
And then 4 years later, you actually figured out what it was.
Yeah. I've been growled at before, but
yeah,
I thought it was a bear because we moved down there, got a German Shepherd named Ginger, and a bear actually come up on the front porch and chased her off, and she never come back home. She actually took up residence down the road. So,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, we had bear. I'm sure they're still there, but I've been growled at, and I'm like, okay, that had to be a bear. And looking back, I don't think it was a bear.
So you had a lot of experiences on the property. Starting at 12, really?
Yeah.
Really? Were you 12 when you moved on the property? Was that when your mom had her experience?
I want to say it was 8 or 9, maybe 10. I'd have to actually look back and see when the property was bought, because they purchased it and then cleared out land and then built the house, and how that stuff goes in order. So it was after they put the house there. Mom was yelled at, and then little things, like I said, I was growled at. My dad was growled at, and little things being tossed at us, little footprints here and there. So little things started adding up. But age of 16 is when I was like, it's a Bigfoot.
Was it hard leaving home with
Yes.
that going on? No one.
Yeah. Like I said, we still have part of the land, still have 20 acres, but it's not the same now.
So, do you have a lot of people living there now that have bought land around it? That just, I say it's sad, but I'd be the one that would buy land and build a house too in the middle of nowhere because that's everybody's dream, you know. So I
Right.
said, I'm being a hypocrite now.
Right. I mean, it's true, but that's what's happening to a lot of the forests and woods now is people is clearing off and putting homes there. So even though there's still activity on that property, and I'm sure around the property, because like I said, the neighbors have had experiences. I think we're pushing them further back and further deeper in the woods. And that's probably why we're having more sightings between that and also social media now. And Bigfoot is the in thing where it used to not be when I was 16 years old. You're just crazy.
Getting back to your neighbors, what were some of the experiences they had? Was it similar to what happened to you, or was it ground, or just?
Yeah, a couple quick stories. One of the neighbors had a pond, or still does, has a pond, and he said that there were very large footprints around the edge of the pond. He calls it the creature. He doesn't say a Bigfoot. He calls it the creature. And he said it killed all of his ducks, and it would split the ducks open, like down the sternum, and eat certain parts out of the ducks. But there were footprints and dead ducks. That was, yeah, that was one cool thing. And another is they throw amazing Halloween parties. And he had set up a hayride, like I said, down in the country, lots of land. And so he had a hayride going, and a group of hayriders, they would make their laps way, way but up to the back of the property and come back around. And they got off and they come up to the owner and they're like, man, that guy dressed up in the gorilla costume looked real.
No way.
Yeah. And he was
on the roof.
and he and later he told us, he said, yeah, there was nobody dressed up in a gorilla costume, but he said I knew it was the creature. He had seen it, and so he knew it.
Wanted to get in on a little bit of the action too, huh? That is probably the coolest story I have heard.
Yeah. Yeah, if the and yeah, he didn't tell the ones on the hayride anything about this creature, but they just thought it was a dude dressed up in a gorilla costume trying to scare them. It wasn't.
That would have been a perfect scenario if it was going to snatch you. That would have been the perfect time.
Yeah.
I imagine that's probably the only time he felt comfortable coming out in the open, like, hey.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine I was probably sitting there going, what is going on? It was probably coming out to investigate, why is a tractor going late at night and what is this? And I don't know if the lights hit it. I'm assuming the lights had to hit it because it's so far down in the woods. So I'm guessing when the tractor lights hit it, it was probably like, oh, gotta go.
Do you think your neighbor calls it the creature because he's in denial about what it is?
That and he's a business owner, very well known in the whole community, and I don't think he wants like getting out as he has Bigfoot on his property. And I don't blame him. I mean, because people still will develop opinions about you, and sometimes it's not so nice.
That is very true. That is very true. But I'll tell you this, some of the best people I've ever met have been in the Bigfoot community. There is a lot of drama in it, but the friends you meet along the way and the ones you kind of gravitate to, the ones you go in the field with, those have a tendency to be some of the best friends you ever meet in your life. They are solid. I always tell people the campfire, the food, and being in the woods. That's what I go for. If I have an experience, that's just a bonus.
Yeah.
So, but I did get someone that contacted me about some activity in Uwari the other day. They had some strange stuff happening, and she happened to jump on Facebook and went in the area, and a lot of people are having the same activities in it that matched hers.
Mm.
But now she told me before she found the went on Facebook in the area and was, seeing what was going on or seeing if anyone had said something about it. But she told me that before she found it, and she was sending me screenshots tonight. And she goes, "This is exactly what happened to me." So Euphoria is still kicking.
Awesome. I've
My
got to
question is, when are you coming down? You got to come on down, girl. Got to
I
come
know.
on down.
I know. I'm off of work for a few weeks, and I keep saying, "Oh, I was going to do this, and I'm going to do that," but I'm studying and health. Having some health issues, and it's just not panning out like I planned because I was like, "Ooh, I can get to go play while I'm off work," but it hasn't turned out that way at all.
Recovery is the most important thing. Be patient, be strong, because one thing we know that you are is a fighter, and you are about as tough as they come, but your heart is so kind.
Oh, thank
And
you.
that I have heard nothing but respectful things about you.
And I can
And
say
I
the
think
same
that's great.
thing.
You didn't hear a lot because usually they say I'm mean. I'm just the meanest one out there. But that's
No.
fine though. I can be a little bit raw, but I don't care. It's just the way my daddy raised me. So I know when we were actually raised in the swamp, there was some crazy stuff that happened. I know, and I'm not saying Bigfoot did it, but I know there was a um, unsolved homicide where there was the mom, a toddler, and two other kids that literally the way it was explained, it looked like something had picked them up and slammed them against a tree and caved their skulls in. Now, am I saying that's a Bigfoot? I'm not saying, but there's good and bad and everything. A lot of people get mad even when I mention that in a Bigfoot conversation. But I mean, we had odd stuff like that the whole time we lived there, and it's I could tell you a lot of things that you could probably relate to with your experiences now. But
Mhm.
maybe if you come this way, I'll take you out in that area and just wear snake boots.
Okay, got it. Got it. I
They,
love snacks. So,
well, I heard you'll pick them up and look at them, and I'm like,
yay.
negative, Ryder.
The
Nothing
venomous
wrong.
ones, the venomous snakes, I will adore from a distance. But otherwise, I'm like, oh, cute little baby.
When I work with animal services, when I come out of medical retirement as a cop, I was working animal services until I do the job I did now. And when I was in training, we got a snake call. And the whole time I'm telling my field training officer, she was a snake lover just like you. I mean, she actually released one in the truck in the middle of 5 o'clock rush hour traffic one time, and that didn't go too well for me. But she's like, "Now we got to go get the snake off this door, and if you're not comfortable with it, I'll get it for you." And the whole time I'm just talking smack, and I'm like, "I ain't scared of that snake. I got you talk to. I get out there, and that's a snake is as long as my leg." And when she turned around, because it was coming off the screen and the head just went like in the air. And when she
Uh-huh.
turned around, I was across the street. And I was like, I have no pride. It's a true story. But so no, the little green ones I'm good with, because I read that little book about Herbie the snake that got caught in the
Oh,
bicycle pedals. It was a little green snake.
oh.
But but no, I literally that was her favorite story to tell anyone, and I still think that this day she released that snake in the middle of 5 o'clock traffic in the middle of the city on purpose. And I looked over because she was holding it. We were taking it back to trying to save it. But I says, "Where's that snake at?" And she goes, under the seat. I said, it, it was, I said, oh my God, I could have killed her.
They do get away from you easily. I know I had one get loose in the house once. I'd taken it in and played with it, and then had it. Of course, we never kept wild animals. I mean, we may keep them a few days or whatever, but they always go back to where they're supposed to go. And
Yeah.
it had this snake, and of course, I was like, "Oh, it's such a cutie," and all of a sudden, it's not in the aquarium. And I looked for it and I looked for it. I can't remember 2 or 3 days passed, but I go to get in bed and stick my feet down at the bottom of the bed and I feel something. It had gotten
Oh,
to the bottom of my bed and I could just feel it on my feet. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I found the snake."
you were happy about finding it, and
Yeah. I was like, "Poor baby, it was trying to get warm."
poor baby is not what I would have said. That whole mattress would have been out the. I don't
Yeah.
kill them. I will not. If I come across them, unless one of my animals are in danger, I will not. I will not harm. I will relocate one. And now, before I met my partner in animal services, I would have killed one in a heartbeat. Just not knowing better. But I mean, I would go in and someone would hit a head, a snake over the head with a golf club, and I'm like, no, and I put it in a little snake bag, and I'd be like, I'd call my friend. I'm like, I'm bringing in a casualty. It's a snake.
Oh.
But yeah, so she taught me to be kind to snakes. So I do get a point for that. So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
don't erase the fact that I ran across the street though. So, but I'm not bad. I'm not that bad now. As the one thing about snakes is they don't make a lot of noise.
Mhm.
If they had fur and you could put a collar on them and they made like a meow or like a chirping sound, I would be
Mhm.
all about it. But you literally are. I jumped in the middle and I jumped in the middle. We were chasing a goat on the interstate one day, and you would not think there'd be copperheads in the medium where the woods are.
Uh-huh.
I jumped a little ditch, and I mean, there's like 6 copperheads around me, and I'm an old fat woman, okay. And as soon as I landed, I seen the they were like being docile, but I literally landed right in the middle of them. As soon as my feet hit, my old fat butt hit that ground, twisted, and jumped right back over
Wow.
that ditch. And I told that trooper, I said, "You get your own damn goat out of there. I'm not getting it." But we did get the goats.
That's crazy. Yeah, you wouldn't think about that, but
They're, oh yeah, I could tell you
Mhm.
stories. But we're going on an hour and 7 minutes, and when I get off tonight, I know I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna say, Johnny, I should have asked this, I should have asked that, and I mean, I had it all in my mind, but we had to go to that bee swarm tonight, and he got a big swarm, and it threw me off, and so I will make some questions,
Okay.
and normally at the end of the show, if there's someone you want to pay tribute to, I give you a few moments, take as long as you want. I kind of think I know. Is
Well,
there anything you want to add before we go there? Anything you want to put
um,
out? We'll
well,
go as long as you want.
oh, make a list of questions and I'll be glad to come back on if you want me on and answer whatever you want to know. I'll be glad to be back on here, but I've had so much happen. I can't fit everything into, one session. It's so much has
Why
happened.
why don't one night we go live? Because I have a friend in Canada. He's just now getting in on it. He will take any advice, any knowledge you give him. And I have met some of the greatest people that have come on the show. And why don't we just let them kind of ask you some questions? And if you want to, if not,
Oh,
we'll record.
oh,
But
wow. That'd be great. I'm up for it.
I look forward to it. I'm gonna give you the floor, and I'm gonna let you pay your tribute. Just stay on after you finish, and let's make sure the recording did good. And I'm gonna hand it over to you. And before I take myself off the screen and bill out, it was a pleasure having you on. You are beautiful on the inside as you are on the outside, and I really enjoyed the conversation.
I enjoyed it too. I enjoyed it. Thank you. Well, just a little tribute here. I know you guys heard me talk about the portal incident. We lost a good friend named Tim Gillardin. He passed away too long after the portal incident. He was one of our teammates. And then within another year, we lost Angelia Shear. She was over MUFON. Anyway, another life taken too soon, but miss her. We really miss her, and we really missed him. And then sadly, we had Bob Grumpy Wilson pass away. And it's devastating. It's devastating for our team. It's devastating for us as an individual, because these are people that have taught us, especially me, so much and just shown me so much love. And, we had to say goodbye. So it's 3 people in just a few years we've lost. But I just have to say, of course, Angelia and Tim, they'll never be forgotten. Grumpy, my goodness, I don't know who could ever fill his shoes. He was literally larger than life. And he kind of helped shape me into the Bigfoot researcher I am today. And I sure do miss him. And our team misses him. So, sorry, it's still a little fresh. But we appreciate it. Just keep us all in your prayers as we heal from these losses. And hopefully, maybe one day I'll see you guys out in the field. So y'all have a good night. And thank you guys for having me on here. And I will see y'all next time. All right.